Hello again, and it's time for another project. Today we're going to do some router work on these bite-in lips. Now I have done this project previously on a scroll saw and basically cut out all the lips and the teeth separately, then glued them all to the nice black backer. On this one we're going to use this recycled oak table. It's a good inch thick, so we have plenty of thickness to play with, and the idea is literally just to route out all the black section there, and then we'll round the edges off with a Dremel, with a sanding drum, and then paint nice red lips, white teeth. And for this inner section I'm going to pour black resin in there, just so everything pops out nicely, and it'll be a lot easier than trying to spray in there, then mask it off, and then spray the teeth, and then spray the lips afterwards. So as always for me, we've transferred the image. This is one I've used before with the scroll saw. Like I always say, I like to use carbon paper. Drop a bit of carbon underneath, stick down your image with your tape, and just draw around that with a pencil. That way, that will transfer the image on. And like I said on my previous videos, you can use that template over and over again. So there's our image there, literally to route out. You can just about see that. And the idea is to remove all the shaded areas. Take a couple of minutes to shade in the areas you want to remove. You could go back and just start routing these out. Well, that will be the end of your project. And what I've literally done on this one, I don't know if you can see it, I've extended the lips here just so they're touching, and I did the same on the bottom set. So we've made a nice barrier there. That is literally to stop the resin from pouring out. And obviously we've done exactly the same on the opposite side. Just drew around there, and we will cut this all out with a scroll saw, get rid of all this outer section. And because I originally drawn it all out, I was going to put a little barrier all the way around, a little framework, and have this resin pouring around here. But in the end we've just extended the lips, so it's going to have nice bigger lips. Teeth will stay the same. Once we've routed all that inner section, we will lower the teeth slightly, and then we'll get the sanders, Dremel, whatever we've got, shaping it all off and rounding it all off. We'll see hopefully towards the end it won't look as messy as what it looks at this moment in time. So for routing out, we're going to start off with these little CNC bits. These come in different degrees, 15s, 20, 30s and so on. Just eBay special. They do have a small shaft on them, a 3.175. Same size as Dremel. They will fit a Dremel, no problem. But if you're using a 1/4 inch router or an 1/2 inch, you'll need what they call an adapter collet. This is 6.35mm. Obviously, if you've got a bigger router, 1/2 inch, you're going to need a bigger adapter collet. And that just slots in there. That's now got the 1/4 inch shaft on. And that will fit your router, no problem. And we're just going to set this to about 3mm. I do have a piece of wood somewhere, if I can find it. There we go. There is proper gauges you can get off eBay. I know that's 3mm because it's more or less the same size as my bit. We'll go around first, and then we're going to lower it down literally to 1/2 inch. Good thickness on this, so it gives some nice depth to it. So that's just a starter, and we might have to go around 2 or 3 passes because it is oak and it's going to be quite hard wood to get the desired depth. But for now, we'll start off with this. Just do those inner sections, not a lot to do really. And then we'll come on to some end milling bits for the clean out. These are exactly the same shaft on them, so they fit the same adapter collet obviously. And we just slide that in there, and these will be ideal for the clear out. If it's quite tough going, I've done a little sample over there and it's quite hard wood. We can always throw on one of these straight flush bits, one of these big boys, and we'll see how we get on with these. Downside to these, they are a little bit aggressive, and obviously we're not going to fit in between these smaller gaps. But for now, let's just throw in the CNC bit, and we'll see how this one goes. Right, so we've made it all the way around those inner cuts with the CNC bits, remember? These little things here. And they've cut really nice. It's cut out easier than I thought. If I noticed, if I went around it twice, it would clear all the dust. So even though it doesn't look so clever at the moment, this is all cut out, but basically compacted with dust. So they're all cut out there, believe it or not. We'll see that in a minute when we go around with our end milling bits and clear it all out. So we're simply just going to pop one of these on. I'm going to start with something a little bit smaller, like so. These are ideal because they will route out the side section plus the bottom bits. Remember, we've got to get into these little tight sections, and we'll see how quick it comes off. I've gone slightly deeper than 3mm. I want to go a lot deeper yet, but we'll clear out at the same depth as that section there, or the full inner piece. And if it's not deep enough, we'll simply just lower the bit and go around it all again. You might have to do this 2 or 3 times sometimes. It's better doing it that way than going in full depth. All you're doing is putting strain on your bits and strain on your router motor. So let's just skim out this inner section first. Right, we've made it all the way round with that end milling bit, and you can see from that more or less we've managed to clear out the first section of our teeth. Now for me, it's not deep enough, so I'm just going to skim over it again. We'll lower it by a couple of mil. The little end milling bit in there, if you just see, that's just fitting into those gaps nicely. So I'm literally just going to go around with this and lower it down a little bit more. I won't film that section because it's basically just exactly the same as what we've just seen. So I'll lower this down, and then when we come back, hopefully it will look different again. Right, we've done the teeth finally. Now I went over this twice, to be honest, and I'm down a good ½ an inch. Now it doesn't take a lot of doing, but you can just see there that extra depth just going to give us a little bit more than just being straight, nearly almost flat teeth, if you know what I mean. Remember, we've got to put resin in the back of these, so that's going to raise that up by a couple of mil, and then we've got a lot of sanding down to do. So just before we do that, we will be cutting it out on a scroll saw, but just before we do that, I just want to skim a mil off these teeth, just a little bit, just so they're slightly down, so when we come to sand it down, this is going to make the teeth, the lips look a bit more plumber. Is it plumber the word we use, guys? I don't know. A bit more fuller lips. Okay. So I'm just going to skim over this just quickly, just so I can show these straight flush bits. Now, I used to use these all the time when I first started doing my little projects. And I believe that 1/8 bit, I used to do my lines, the clear out and everything. This one's proper burnt away now. Look, it's quite an old piece. But they are a little bit aggressive, so I certainly won't do any detailed work. But for clearing off, skimming off the top of these, they'll be fine. So we just get one with a double bladed on like so. They come with a 1/4 inch shaft on, so no adapter collet needed. We'll simply pop that into our router. I'm just going to skim over these teeth, and then when we come back, we'll be ready to cut it out on a scroll saw. Okay, so we skimmed over the teeth there. That took a matter of minutes, and it's just enough to lower them down slightly, just so we have less work on these lips here to make them look a bit filler. These straight flush bits, they certainly don't mess about, but like I said previously, they are a little bit aggressive, so just go a bit careful with those. I will put links on to all my little bits, and remember, there'll be better bits out there, but they all come with a better price. So if you're just starting off, get yourself on eBay or Amazon, get some nice cheap bits and see how you go on. And if you take to the hobby, the craft, certainly go out and buy your profile bits, your liner bits, your spiral upcuts. Me personally, CNC bits, end milling bits and straight flush bits. They're all I've ever used in the 5 to 6 years I've been doing my project, so I don't know any better. So the next stage now is simply just to cut it all out. We do have a lot of shaping to do. Remember, we've sanding drums on the flexi cable and a mouse sander and whatever sander we can find to round these edges off and just give it a bit more shape. But I think those teeth are definitely thick enough to allow for a bit of resin to go in the back of there, just for finishing the project off. Obviously, once we've painted nice red lips and some beautiful white teeth there. Right, cut out next time now for me, should I say. I like to use spiral blades. Now, spirals aren't everybody's favourite, and there's a lot of people just don't like to use them. With a spiral blade, your teeth literally spiral the full length of the blade, so that will cut in any direction. Ideal for your bigger projects. You can basically start there and cut that out without moving that wood, turning it once at all. Now, with your other blade, should I say, you get a pin blade. They actually have the pin on the end, as you can see. There we go, and a pinless blade. Both of these will do these because it's a simple enough cut. I'll just cut him around here. But with these two blades here, the straight blades as I call them, you'll have to feed that in there, then turn your piece and feed it, then turn it and feed it. A lot of twisting about. So for me personally, spiral blades. Unfortunately, with my little old drapper there that came off Noah's Ark in the corner, it only takes pin blade, so I have to use these little adapter clamps. And you have to use an Allen key, tighten it all up, top and bottom, feed that into your blade, hook it on, take it, tension and all the rest of it. So if you're going to go out and buy a scroll saw, take one that takes, buy one should I say, that takes pinless blades. And it just saves you the trouble with the adapter clamps and stuff. Right, we'll pop on this Pegas number 5 spiral blade into the scroll saw and literally cut out. Remember, we've extended these lips. There's our original line there, as you can see. Originally I was going to put a frame on, basically to make a barrier, stop the resin running out the side walls here, side section. But in the end, we've joined the two red lips up together, and that original frame is now going to become part of the lips. So these lips are getting bigger by the minute, so we best cut them out quickly before she goes off the charts. Right, let's pop it on the scroll saw and cut this one out. Right, so we drilled a pilot hole simply so I can feed the blade through and keep this surrounding wood in one piece. It's quite thick, it is, remember, it's an inch thick. You could have gone across there and cut it, but you'll find as you're cutting around, these sections will start hanging down and they just catch on the base of your saw. So for me, drill a little hole, feed it through. Remember, with all your blades, be them spiral or standard normal straight blades, they want to be smooth on the way down, rough on the way up. We've took up the tension at the back of the saw. We have got a nice ping ping sound there. I think that wood just moved. There we go. So we're ready to start cutting this one out. It's not much of a cut, so we'll skim around this quickly. And then when we come back, we'll focus on the sanding and shaping the rest. Right, so we've cut that out with our Pegas number 5 spiral blade. That's an inch thick and it cut round there, no problem whatsoever. So there's our basic shape now. We're getting somewhere near to how we want it to look. Now the next stage, quite a lot of sanding on this one. We'll use a mouse sander, clean all those pencil lines off. Remember, we've extended those lips by a good inch. So we'll clean all those off with that. And then I'll pop on these sanding drums on the end of a flexi cable. Now the flexi cable simply attaches to my Dremel, and that's perfect for getting in there and just rounding those edges off so they're not as sharp as. And then a good bit of old sandpaper just to finish it off. Hopefully when we come back this will look totally different again. Now there is bits for rounding these edges off. I've got a box full of tricks I was given years back, as you can see from there, and I think I've used maybe 1 or 2. Now the idea with these, if I just get you one of these, they have little bearings on the end there, and they run alongside the wood. I'll just find a piece of wood to run it on. We'll get your scrap piece here. So if you wanted to round off that edge, that would go on your router, and you would run that wheel, that bearing across the edge there, and that will give you a nice rounded edge. Unfortunately with this one, as you can see, we're just not going to fit it in between the teeth to round those off. They just won't fit in. That bearing wheel is just too big. You'll get away with the outer edges maybe, but we're just not going to get it in there. So we can't use that. But there's plenty of different toys in there and different things to play with. And maybe we'll use some on another day. So for now, good old sanding drums, bit of sandpaper, mouse sander. Let's start putting some shape to this lips. Right, that's it as regards to the router and sanding down and general tidying up. You can more or less just make out from there, look, you can see we've rounded off all those teeth and the lips themselves, top and bottom. So they've come out nice and clear, hopefully. Now the idea is to paint the teeth and the lips. Painter's touch paint for me. It's an indoor project, so I'm just going to paint that straight onto the wood. I've never had any issues before without putting primer down or anything like that. I tend to water the first layer or 2 down, just let it soak in, dry up, and then we'll go on top with our next coat. And I think, and I'm hoping, we might just have a nice bright red here to do the lips with. Once we've painted all this, we'll spray a bit of varnish on. One, just to give an extra shine, even though this is a gloss paint. Plus, I just want to seal this bottom section, hopefully, before we put our resin in. Remember, we're going to paint the teeth and the lips, and then to get the black section in between there, we're going to pour black resin in there, and hopefully it'll run around the circuit and just finish the project off nicely. We hope anyway. So let's go and paint this first. Spray a bit of varnish on, and then we'll mix a little bit of resin. Don't need a lot for this, with black acrylic paint, and simply pour that in. Once the resin's gone in there, we'll skim over with a little lighter, just get rid of any bubbles, and the project will be finished. We won't spray anything else on afterwards. So let's go and paint this first. Right, so we've painted it over. Went over this twice. You could have gone 3 or 4 times, but especially on the red, I just want to leave a bit of that grain showing through. You might just see it there. It's hard to see, really, to be honest. It was nice wood, this, and it was a shame to paint it, but unfortunately, some projects just need to be done. And you can notice there, we've done all those side walls as well. So all that's left now is literally just to put black resin into this. If resin is not your thing, and you've got a nice steady hand, you might be able to paint the back of that black or mask it off or do whatever that way. But for me, I'm just going to pour some resin in, and hopefully that will find its way around and just finish off this little project nicely. Right, just before that though, I'm going to spray it with some varnish. I would normally spray this on at the end, but I don't like to spray over the resin itself, just a bit pointless exercise. So we're going to spray this first, just to gloss up these lips. Even though that is a gloss paint, we've got a little bit of a shine going there. I think with a little bit of varnish on, going to really make it shine better still. So we'll take this outside, give it 2 or 3 coats of this 151. It doesn't matter what we use. If there's any left in there, it could be a yacht varnish, just the same. This is an indoor project, remember, so we don't have to go too crazy. So it will be a simple case of just spraying it like so. A little bit dusty in here, so we will take it outside just to finish it off. And then when we come back, we can pop our resin in. The good thing with the little varnish and all, hopefully it might just seal those bottom sections, just so your resin's not as bubbly. But personally myself, I don't think they're going to have any issues. Right, let's go and find some resin. Right, so we've sprayed 3 or 4 layers of that little varnish there, and hopefully you can see from that it's just enough to give it a better shine. You could have gone a bit further if you wanted to, but for me, that's plenty on there for now. So resin time, just a quick one. The Vista one I use is, the resin I use is Vista 1. Now these are brand new. I've not opened these up yet. They're still sealed at top. And if you do get a delivery of resin, and part 8 is, that is just one solid block. You couldn't do anything with that at all. So just let it stand in some nice warm water for a good half an hour plus, and it will soften it back up to a liquid form like that one there. Okay, so all your resins, 2 parts of this one, should I say, what they call a 1-to-1 mix. So it's 1 part A, your resin, to 1 part B, your hardener. Some resins are 1-to-1, 2-to-1, 3-to-1. Some resins are deep pour resins, some resins are craft resins. So just do a little bit of research, but I've certainly got no issues with this one for now. And for mixing purposes, I just get these cheap little party cups, plastic containers. They're ideal because they do have little grooves on the side, and I like to count up, let's say 5 grooves. We mark it off with a pen. A for your resin, and obviously remember 1-to-1, so it's identical amount of B, your hardener, and then literally just mix the 2 together, and that will be your resin. They do say transfer A and B into a 3rd container. It's something I've never done, and I've certainly never had any issues. For mixing wise, just cheap old plastic knife and fork party ones. These are ideal because they have a little groove in, and once you mix it, you can scoop it out, and if you just feed it along to where we want to go. I do have syringes somewhere in plastic pipettes. Just remind me there, if I can find one. Here's a little pipette there. I have tried these before, but they didn't quite work for me. You can cut the end off, suck up your resin, and squirt it along like so. And the same with your syringes. Once the resin's gone in, get yourself a little cocktail stick, like so. This is an oversized one, and we can just feed it along the way into all these little sections here. And once all the resin's gone in, we'll come over with a lighter. We'll just skim over the top quickly. Remember, we've painted this, so we don't want to hang around too much. Or if you've got a bigger project, you get the big boys out like so. And for colour wise, there's inks, powders, dyes, anything out there. I just use acrylic paint, nice black one today. So we're going to mix up our resin, give it a good mix in, and basically fill this in just to say cover the back. We want to leave these teeth, so we still have plenty of teeth showing and plenty of lips. So I would say a mil or two, just to say we've covered that back wall. And hopefully when it's all nicely finished, it should look totally different again. Right, I'll mix the resin off camera. And then when we come back, we can pop in our colour and basically start filling this one in. Right, there's all our resin nicely mixed up, as you can see. Now that's going to be more than enough for here. I always have little side projects on the side ready to fill in with any leftovers. Now please, with resin, you want a nice resin mask on, proper gloves on, plenty of ventilation. Resin can be quite nasty should you get it on your skin and stuff. Please don't follow me by example as regards to health and safety. So there's our resin all nicely mixed. So we're going to pop in our acrylic paint. I've never had any issues with this. They do say 10% of the volume mix so and so, but whoops, I'll literally just pop that into what I need. It's only left in there. And then we'll give it a mix around. And if it's not dark enough, we can literally just drop a bit more in. Don't want to lose that off there, do we? Right, so we mix it around like so. You can see the general idea from that. How that colours up. You can drop a little bit in the project. And if it's not dark enough, black enough, we can literally just add a little bit more. I'm just going to pop a little bit more in this one. Right, I popped a little bit more in. That's nice and dark now. So later we're just going to start filling it in. Let it find its own level. We'll help it along with our little toothpick, remember? And then we can take it from there. So you've got that little scoop there, look, if you wanted to. Just to see how that fits in there. Or if you're brave enough, you could pour it straight from the cup itself. Right, I'll continue with this. Get our little stick and help it along its way. And when we come back, we'll skim over it with that lighter. Right, that's all nicely filled in, and that's just enough to cover the bottom of the wood and still allow plenty of depth to your teeth and your lips. So we've got it all in. We'll just skim around with a lighter. Don't want to keep it still for too long. We also don't want to mark or burn any of that paint, and that will just help release any of those little bubbles. Right, we'll put this to one side, get a nice cover for it. Any flies, dust, I'm sure it will find that resin. So we'll come back in a good 24 hours and we'll see what we've got, and this little project should be finished. Right, that's it. It's the next day. All that resin's nicely set. And it's got around there nice. I think the resin idea just finishes it off nicely. Just lets those teeth just pop out. Remember, we've left enough depth there, should I say, so we can still feel for the teeth and the lips themselves. If anything, maybe the lips could have done a bit of shading in, but I'm not that quite artistic enough to do that. But as they are, you can see from that, nice big solid piece, and it's quite heavy. This on 1-inch oak, I believe. A guy gave me a free tabletop and he said it was an oak table, so I'll take his word. And it measures in at 21 inches by 15 inches. So we routed it out with little CNC bits. They work fine on this. They cut really nice. So do all our line works, remember, and then just a little end milling bits to go in with. It come out really easy. No need to use anything else. Remember, there is different bits out there. just in case I find the ones that work for you. And then we painted it with these little painter's touch paints. They work fantastic. It's an indoor piece. Once it was painted, the red and white, we sprayed it with a 151 varnish. That was literally just to give it that extra shine. I think you might just get it from there. Nice shine to it, look. It's just a nice finish. I'm quite happy with that. Me personally, once that varnish goes on, that's more or less the end of your project. And for the resin, just Vista one. I've used different resins in the past, but I'm quite happy with Vista one. It works for me. And we just mix a bit of cheap black acrylic paint in there to add to the colour. And that was it. This little project is more or less finished. If you remember when I started doing the resin, I said I always have little side projects going just in case there's no wastage. If I can just show you literally on this piece of here, this is what's left over. So we had 5 little paracetamol container, that is, and so many in there, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 of those. And we also did one of these little fishes there. These are ideal, just a great little mould, cheap old eBay special. Any leftovers, simply fill that in. I've peeled it out once already. That just gives you a nice fish, if you can see it there. Obviously it's black because that's all we used. On previous projects you can get a nice multicoloured effect going down with your fishes. And these ones, tablet containers, I find you don't need to split it with a knife, just to open it up, and then they do pop out like so. And I've had a jugs full of these. I will be using them in a project. And obviously this is a silicone one, they pop out nice and easy. And I've also got a jug full of those ones, so we don't waste anything. We'll store these to another day till we feel that we need them. So that's it. This little project is finished. So it's biting lips routed out on 1-inch oak, painted with painter's touch, and then we inlaid the black with resin just to finish it off. And it's 21 inches by 15. Thank you very much for watching.